Hello and welcome to another TNT special. Our guest today is an 11-year pro from the east of England who has won titles all over the East Anglia region. He has competed for DNA Pro Wrestling, DOA Wrestling, Reloaded Championship Wrestling Association, Ultimate British Wrestling, Jurassic Pro, and more. He is the current WIN Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, the current DOA Adrenaline Division Champion, and the new RCWA Elite One champion. He is CJ Carter. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great to be here with you and have a chat today.
No worries. Been looking forward to this one. We do have a third member, the tribal chief of the Big Fat Geeks, Stephen Salden. His son is an absolute huge fan of you, so this was actually kind of a personal request from him as well. So if his name's Jack, and as I say, he's a big fan of you. He's been watching you at UBW shows, and I think
he has
had
your
a photo
t-shirt
with you. And he does.
Amazing. Well, hi Jack. Thanks for being a fan.
Excellent. We are, of course, TNT's A Great British Wrestling podcast for Great British Wrestling, as featured on bodyslam.net, brought to you by Powered for TV. I'm your host, the Great British Tackle, Mr. Andrew Moore, Andy to most, and my co-host, as always, is Big Daddy Dan, Daniel Allen, or just Dan for short. How are we doing?
We are very, very good. Very happy to have CJ on today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I mean, you get down to the UBW shows quite often as well.
I do. I live in Letchworth in Hertfordshire, so I'm basically right next to every UBW show there is.
Yeah, that's real close. I mean, pretty sure we've done shows in Letchworth as well. So
you had the Garden City Shakedown.
Yeah. So
there we go. Of course, you've got a huge show coming up, DNA Pro. It's in Our Blood 3. That's on the 19th of February in Ipswich, and it's going to be exclusively on Powered for TV. And hopefully, fingers crossed, you've got one of your biggest matches to date in the. Is it the excellent? What's the moniker he goes by? The excellence of execution? No. Oh, I've forgotten it. But he is Robbie X. He is supreme. How much are you looking forward to facing a Robbie?
Oh, like for me, you kind of nailed it, right? So it is one of the biggest matches of my kind of career to this point. You know, I've been doing this 11 years, and it's not often I get to get in the ring with someone of his ability and his level, with his exposure as well. The only other time, I mean, I wrestled Mark Haskins in 2017. That's probably the only other time that's really kind of come close to that. So, you know, for me to kind of have that exposure for myself, but also to just I want to try and prove myself that I can hang with, you know, without a doubt, I think one of the best in the country, right? I think we can agree on that. So I just want to be able to prove that I can hang with the best, the absolute best. So yeah, it's huge for me.
And of course, he's absolutely got himself shredded at the moment. He's probably in the best shape of his career. So, I mean, you're probably in the best shape. Are you both competing right now at the top of your games?
Yeah, I mean, I've been following Robbie X for years now, and I remember he was on World of Sport when ITV had that running, and you know he's been going for I want to say as long as me, if not longer. You know, I remember hearing his name about when I first started. So, and he would have been really young then. But I followed his career all the way through in it, and he's just got better and better and better and better. And now, like, you know, he's not only is he incredible in the ring, he's now got, without a shadow of a doubt, in the best shape of his life. It's ridiculous, the shape he's in. Which for me personally, I'm looking at going, oh my god, now I've got to try and not only have I got to now match his wrestling ability in the ring, which I don't know is actually possible. I've got to now try and match his physique as well. It's like, for Christ's sake, Robbie, like, could you not just bring one or the other? You know, now how am I supposed to compete on both levels? But yeah, you know, I spent a lot of lockdown trying to get in the best shape I've been in. I was never really a body guy. I've never been a body guy. I've always been much more of a sort of like focused on the wrestling type thing and the character. But you know, lockdown gave me a lot of extra time, and I needed something to focus mentally on. And so I just focused on diet and working out and kind of trimmed up and leaned up. And I'm smaller than I used to be, but I'm you know, probably in the best shape physically of my whole career. So, but still, I think Robbie's in better shape than me. So, yeah.
Robbie's been doing a lot of intermittent fasting.
That's what I do, funnily enough. Yeah, is when I saw on his Instagram, he said he was doing that, and I started doing that in 2020, and that's what really helped me cut up was the intermittent fasting. I do a 16-hour fast and I eat for 8 hours. So yeah, I usually stop eating around about like 6 in the evening and then fast until 10 the next day. So, but yeah, it helps. It really helps. But he's just, man, he's got more muscle mass than me though. He just looks incredible. So
he is looking good, and he is so fast in the ring. Much like yourself, you are a quick mover around the ring. I had the joy of watching a couple of your matches recently, and you do have the speed. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, I mean, but you watch Robbie move, and it's like you blink and it's like you've missed him. It's incredible. I mean, some of the things he does. I've watched a couple of his matches back recently with the match coming up. So I watched his match with Pac from Defiant, and I watched the match with Will Ospreay from Rev Pro, and I just looking at the way he moves. I'm just like, my God, like it kind of defies physics. You know, not just the speed, but you know, people say, yeah, I've got quite a lot of intensity and speed in the way I wrestle, but I can't do the acrobatics that he does and move the way he moves. It's mind-blowing, to be honest.
I remember actually, I used to be mistaken because remember he used to wear the blue mask with the white cross on it for the Robbie X. I mistakenly thought it was because he was Scottish.
What was it for?
I'm not quite sure. I think
he mentioned it on an interview recently, and they wanted to have a masked wrestler. And basically he was told, you're going to be the guy in the mask.
Because I assumed, like you, that, I mean, I've heard him speak, so, you know, I assumed he wasn't completely Scottish, but I assumed maybe he had some, you know, a Scottish parent or some ancestry that was Scottish. Like, I totally assumed that's what it was about. Because, it looked like the Scottish flag, right?
So, Robbie, I apologize for that. That was very early when we first started doing this podcast as well. So, but yeah, that is a match I am certainly looking forward to seeing. That's going to be, as we said, exclusively on Powered 4 TV. It's also probably DNA Pro Wrestling's biggest show ever. It is star-studded. Obviously, yourself, you're facing Robbie X, but Forrest Hayes versus Nathan Cruz. Give us your thought on that one.
I mean, a bit like, I'd say, kind of similar. Like you said, this is, I would say, the biggest DNA show to date. And you know, there's a few matches in there, a bit like me and Robbie, where you've got guys who are really trying to prove themselves, who are more than capable, and more than capable of being at that top level, but they're just in there with. So I'm in with Robbie, and he's in with Nathan, and it's about, I think, for both of us, for me and for Forrest Hayes, it's about just trying to prove that we are at that level, and we want to be seen as, you know, the guys coming along to, you know, Nathan Cruz was Progress champion. You know, I believe he was the first Progress champion.
He was the first. He was the original Progress championship.
He's got a huge legacy in this country, you know, and Nathan's, again, he's someone I've been following for years. I remember when he was coming through at FWA with Alex Shane, like way back when, as the next show stealer, right? You know, it doesn't get much bigger than that for Forrest Hayes, and it's kind of similar for me and for Robbie X. And it's, you know, both of us are going to have to go out there on that show and kind of live up to the fact that we've been put in with two of the best in the country on the biggest show they've got to date. You know, they've put a lot of faith in both me and Forrest Hayes. So yeah.
And I guess the same can certainly be said for Corey McRae, who's been on our show. He's taking on Mr. Flex himself, Adam Maxted. So again, just huge.
Same. You know, and fair play to the guys at DNA. You know, they're giving opportunities to people like me and Corey and Forrest Hayes, where, you know, some places might not do that, and they're putting us in with 3 of the best in the country, giving us the opportunity to, you know, step out and get that exposure and, you know, prove that we are, you know, alongside the best. So without DNA, we just wouldn't get those opportunities. So it's huge.
We then have an amazing women's match with Heidi Katrina versus Sky Smithson. That's two big, powerful ladies there. There's going to be some very, very strong hands-on wrestling.
Yes, I mean Sky's in amazing shape. I saw a picture on social media yesterday of her. I think she's just done a workout. She's flexing her biceps. Like, Jesus Christ, they're like bigger than my head. You know, she's in incredible shape. And you know, like you said, Heidi's got a kind of similar style as well, and she's been out wrestling in Japan, and she's picked up that style. To both solid workers. Yeah, that's good. Like, it doesn't get any better than that, I don't think. Like you said, this is huge for DNA. All from bottom to top, it's just completely stacked. So,
huge tag team championship match. The lads, Alex Echo, Ben Jones, and BDSM Charles Crowley, somebody you know very well, and Clementine. What do you think of that matchup?
Well, you know, I can't say enough good things about all four people in the ring there. Lads, I think lads for me are probably alongside probably the Rebellion and probably the best tag team in the country right now. I'd say the same about BDSM. You know, with the lads and with Rebellion, the difference is for me is that they're regular tag teams all over the country. Wherever they go, they're a tag team, right? BDSM are great when they tag, but they do in their single stuff as well. So it's slightly different. What could I possibly say on this podcast to do justice to Charles Crowley and Clementine, right? Look, Charles Crowley just won the Wrestle Carnival Championship. He's going over to Germany. He's on progress. He's going to, you know, you got to say, but by the end of this year, he's going to be the biggest star in the country. I think he's already well on his way to being there. And Clementine, you know, is without a doubt going to be the biggest female star in the country, I think, as well. No words can do that pair justice, I don't think. And whether they're a tag team or singles, they're just incredible, right? But the lads, for me, as a regular tag team, it doesn't get much better than that. I think they're great. I can't say enough good things about both of the guys. I've never seen them come out and have a match and the crowd not be absolutely entertained, not be just, you know, whether it's, you know, laughing at some of the spots they do and keeping them entertained that way. But then they go in and then they can wrestle with the best of them as well. And you don't necessarily expect that when they come out with their entrance and their inflatables and, you know, and then they get in the ring, you're like, whoa, they can go as well. So, I mean, that match is just full of charisma and character, right?
Another one of my favourites on the show, Warren Banks versus Big Effing Joe. Love Warren Banks, and he's on an absolute tear at the moment.
Yeah. You know, I've known Warren for a while. I met Warren in 2017 in Milton Keynes. He's wrestling in the Milton Keynes area, and oh God, I can't. Again, like, it's hard for me to sit here and do someone like Warren Banks justice. I'm sure people who are listening to this podcast have seen his work. He's literally everywhere right now. I mean, I don't think there's a promotion in the country that aren't booking him and booking him at the top in their main events as their champion. You know, tearing it up at Progress. RCWA, he just won the RCWA championship. I mean, in fact, he beat me in the final of that tournament for that championship. And as an out-and-out wrestler, I don't know if there's anyone better in the country right now than Warren Banks. And he's also one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet as well. So, and it doesn't seem to matter how far up the ladder he climbs. He's still the same. He's still the same Warren Banks. He's just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And he never lets any of the success go to his head, or, you know.
He does have a habit of landing on me when he goes into the front row, though. Twice so far.
With his dives. Yeah, I mean, it's not often you see a guy his size do a dive like that. It's pretty impressive. It needs to be seen live to be believed, as does his spear, which is just incredible. Which I've taken a few times off the top rope. Until you feel every bit of that one. But yeah, Warren and Joe, like two big guys going at it. And I think for Joe, it's about proving that he can wrestle as well. Like, obviously, people who watch him regularly know he can. You know, and he has the talent, but I think a lot of people just assume that he's a deathmatch guy, he's a hardcore guy. Warren is one of the best wrestlers in the country, and I think he just wants to prove that he can go out there and have a great match without all the weapons and the deathmatch stuff as well.
He can definitely do both. There's no two ways about that.
Absolutely.
I can see Warren Banks one day main event in WrestleMania without a shadow of a doubt. As you say, he's just got the entire package. And Big Effing Joe, he's more than just, as you say, more than just hardcore.
I met Warren in 2017, and I met Charles Crowley right at the end of that same year. So I met Warren right at the start of the year, and Charles Crowley right at the end of the year. And as soon as I saw them both, the second I saw them both, I was like, these two guys are stars. They're mega stars. Like, you know, that was 5 years ago now. But it was just so, you know, when you just meet someone and they've got it, right? They've got the presence, they've got the look, they've got the size, and then they just pick everything up so quickly. You know, you can't teach what those two have. You have it or you don't.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, that I can see them both main event in the biggest shows in the world within the next year, 2 years, however long, you know.
Yeah, a couple of more underrated wrestlers, Ash Draven versus Ashley Dunn, very good wrestlers, not have the big names as some of these other guys, but they should. They are very amazing. So let us know about those guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, two guys I know pretty well. You know, Ash from RCWA. You know, he was an RCWA original, and yeah, I don't think he gets as much credit as he deserves, to be honest. You know, he kind of like started out with Will Ospreay, and you know, and him and Kelly Six, and you know, and Ashley Dunn was part of that as well. And they kind of came through. They had a similar style, and they had a lot of buzz about them. And obviously, you know, Will's gone on to be literally the best wrestler in the world, and so it's kind of been overshadowed a little bit by that, you know. But and so I think some people tend to see, you know, Ash. Oh, he's the guy that wrestles at RCWA, and he's, you know, he wrestled with Will back in the day, and he's really good. And people associate him with Will, but you've got to take that out of the equation, because you can't compare him to the best wrestler in the world. But Jesus Christ, is he incredible in the ring? And he's got, the thing is that he has that not many, like, you know, he came through that kind of like backyard kind of scene in the kind of like mid 2000s, as did sort of like Ashley Dunn. And it's quite rare that when you come through that way, that you pick up a character like he has. You know, you look at Ashley Dunn, he's still going out there and he's having incredible sort of like indie style matches with, you know, some of the stuff he can do in the ring is a bit like Robbie X. I'm like, Jesus Christ, how's that even possible? But, you know, Ashley Dunn's an out and out wrestler. Ash Draven has got an incredible character and gimmick behind him that is unique, and it stands out, and he plays it so well. Like, he plays it so well that he almost blurs the lines, and you're like, is that really a character or is that him? You know? And for me, myself personally, when I'm looking at trying to learn from people character-wise, Ash Draven's someone I look at and I try and think, right, you know, how can I take some of the stuff he's doing and implement it into my character, because it's incredible, I think. I don't think he gets enough credit for that character, for his character and how strong it is. I don't think he gets enough credit generally, to be honest. But yeah.
Excellent. And then, of course, I'm not familiar with these guys as much. Is the Banker versus Damien?
Yeah. I mean, you're probably not surprised to hear I know those two guys as well. The Banker, I don't know the Banker as well, but you know, I've met him at DOA, obviously. Recently started wrestling for DOA after lockdown and met him there. And yeah, underrated guy. Once you see him live, I think you'll be surprised at some of the stuff he can do, because I think because of the Banker gimmick, people think he's more just character, but he can go in the ring. And Damien, you know, a bit like me, he's a long time, you know, he's been wrestling. I mean, I say a bit like me, I've been wrestling 11 years, he's been wrestling about 20. So, but he's been around. my point is he's been around a long time, you know, and there's nothing he can't do. And he's got his character down to a T. And whether it's, the thing is, whether you want him to go out there and have a wrestling match, or whether you want him to go out there and do a character match, or whether you want him to go out there and do a hardcore match, there's not much that Damien can't do. So I think people will be surprised by that match. I think, because it's probably, you know, with all the huge names on the card, it might get lost in the shuffle a little bit, but it shouldn't.
Excellent. So as I say, that is DNA Pro Wrestling, is in Our Blood 3, which is going to be in Ipswich on the 19th of February, and you will be able to stream it and watch it via Powered 4 TV. Another one for Powered 4 TV coming up, Ignite Wrestle Pro, which is Encore in Boreham Wood on the 6th of March, where you are the hometown hero. and you'll be partnered with another hometown hero in Nino Bryan, and you're taking on, you mentioned them earlier, one of the best tag teams in the UK, The Rebellion, Taylor James and Jack Toreno. You looking forward to that one?
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to that one for more reasons than one. Obviously, I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware, probably are. Ignite is my promotion. So, you know, so I run Ignite. Bournemouth's my hometown. So it's about, you know, and I used to run Pro Wrestling Clash as well. I don't know if you know, that's on Powered 4 TV. So, and that was in Bournemouth. It kind of transitioned into Ignite just before, well, it was meant to be before COVID came and lockdown came, but, you know, that ended that, unfortunately. But yeah, coming out of lockdown, we had the first show in October, and then this is the second show back. And, you know, just being able to put on a show for my hometown where I was born and raised is incredible, and to do it alongside someone who's also kind of, you know, he's about 15 years younger than me, but but you know, the next guy coming through from my hometown who's born and raised there, to do it alongside him against, you know, one of the best tag teams in the country is, what more can you ask for, to be honest, than that? And I want to go out. The things, I'm a big fan of tag team wrestling, and I used to be in a tag team before I did the CJ Carr character. Along with Gene Money, actually. Back in the day, we were a tag team for a couple of years, and I love tag team wrestling, so I'm looking forward to getting back out there and doing some tag stuff.
We interviewed Nino a little while ago, and he is definitely one of the best high flyers in the UK at the moment, and he wins over every crowd. I saw him at FNW on Thursday, and he was in a 4-way against Gene Money, actually, funnily enough, and Nico Angelo and Big Guns Joe. And he was probably the most over out of the 4.
That's great.
Even more so than Gene.
That is good. Wow. More than Gene Money. I don't think I've ever seen anyone ever get over more than Gene Money on any show. The man is he just like was born to entertain, that man. But that, you know, Nino's, you know, he's got something about him that he's got that intangible kind of it about him. And annoyingly, I tell you what's a bit frustrating for me, it's a bit selfish, but, you know, I spotted him a few years ago and I was like, oh my God, I want to get him on, you know, at the time it was Clash. I was like, I want to get him on Pro Wrestling Clash, and then when we moved to Ignite, I was like, I want to make him a big star, and I want him to break out on my shows. I know it's a bit, because I just saw he was going to be a massive star, and then lockdown came, shows were gone. During the lockdown, I think a lot of people started to kind of see his stuff online, and kind of, and then once we came out of lockdown, everyone was all over Nino, booking Nino. Like you said, he's at Fight Nation. He's starting to wrestle all over the country now. So, you know, he's not kind of that kind of like best kept secret anymore. He's not really a secret, is he? Everyone kind of knows who Nino is, and he's amazing. I was kind of hoping that we could out the secret of like how great Nino was on my shows, but hey,
well, maybe you can get his little brother.
It's funny you say that. Just wait. It could well be happening.
Because Nino himself, you mentioned, when we spoke to Callum Newman, he let us know that Will Ospreay actually nicknamed Nino Bryan Rey Mysterio because he thought he was that good. He would call Callum Newman Eddie and Nino Bryan Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, I mean, probably the British versions of, you know, it's pretty damn close. I remember watching some of the stuff that Nino would do when he was 15 years old in training, and I'm just like, how'd you do that? Like, you know, he'd come from head scissors and spin round 5 times and then into a Rana, and then it's just like, I couldn't, you know, it makes me dizzy just watching some of the stuff he can do. And now he's got starting to get the size to go with it as well. He was so small then. Obviously he was, you know, even when he was on the last ever Pro Wrestling Clash show, which was in 2020, and you know, he was 16 turning 17 then, and he's kind of not, I think he's 19 now, and just he's grown in size, he's filling out, and now he's starting to, you know, he's starting to add that to his game as well. So there's no stopping him. A bit like Callum. When I first met Callum, he was like 15, and he was really like slender and small and skinny. And now look at him, he's huge. He's like,
he's a big boy.
He's a big boy, and he's running around out there like Rey Mysterio, and he's, you know, he looks like a heavyweight.
Well, you've booked a hell of a card here, because another match
Thanks.
you've got on, Laura Di Matteo versus Tommy Kyle. Now, Tommy Kyle, as you mentioned beforehand, before we started recording, has just had a great showing at Wrestle Carnival. And Laura Di Matteo is all over the UK at the moment.
Yeah. You know, there's so many great female wrestlers. It's hard to say she's the best, because I think that would be unfair to so many others. But my God, if she's not like the best, she's certainly alongside the best as like 1A, 1B, 1C, you know, whatever. She is up in that bracket of the absolute elite. How she's not signed is beyond me, actually. And you know, just the fact, you know, it was great. It kind of worked out well for me. She's not, because I can get her on my show, which I'm over the moon about. Because we actually worked with her at Pro Wrestling Clash as well, and she had it was her and Nina Samuels, and they had probably one of the best matches we had in the 2 years at Pro Wrestling Clash. You know, we had Cara Noir, we had El Fantasmo on the shows, obviously Sam Stoker, Gene Money, you know, Callum Newman. We had some incredible wrestlers at Clash, but those two, Nina Samuels and Laura Di Matteo, stole the show. They were just amazing. And obviously Nina's since been signed. It just amazes me that Laura's not. But you know, I'm kind of glad she's not. Well, you know, still get her on my show. So, and you know, Tommy again, up and coming guy. People are really starting to notice him as well. He's not such a secret anymore. I met him at UBW. You know, and yeah, he's a guy that I can't say enough good things about. And give it a year, give it 18 months, he's going to be huge. So.
And Laura Di Matteo did have a tryout with WWE. She had a couple of matches that were televised in NXT UK. And Nina Samuels is just having an independent match. She's been let free to go on Pro Wrestling Eve.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, which is great to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you with saying that Laura Di Matteo, if she's not the number one, she's definitely in amongst the 5 people who you would say are possibly the number one in the division. Big fan of her. She was my number one draft pick for my women's division. She is amazing.
Yeah, same. If I was, you know, if I had unlimited money and I could have any kind of, you know, promotion. You know, at the moment I'm working to a budget, but there's, you know, if I could have anyone I wanted in the country, Laura would still be number one. Like, you know, it's just you don't get any better than that.
Smashing Mike.
Yeah, Smashing Mike. Have you seen Smashing Mike? You've seen Smashing Mike at UBW, possibly, yeah.
Oh yes, a few times.
Like, just bags of charisma. That guy just like oozes charisma. You know, I wrestled him at WrestleForce, and I wrestled him at UBW as well. And in fact, the match we had at UBW recently was probably one of my most favorite matches I've ever had. Just because it was so much fun. You know. Have I had better matches technically in my 11 years? Probably. But have I had as much fun in the ring before, and have the crowd seemed to have as much fun before? Probably not. You know, they seem to love it. I
was front row for the dueling chants. It was good fun.
Thanks. So there you go. The fans seem to enjoy that one, right? There's something about Mike that brings out that in everyone. He's just got so much character and charisma. And obviously he's wrestling Mark True. So who is, for me, he's going to be that next kind of him and Nino. You take Callum out of the equation, he's there already. Like, he worked with Rev Pro at the weekend, so you can't really say he's up and coming or the next best high flyer, because he is probably the best, right? Yeah. So but Mark True and Nino, for me, they're the two next ones coming through. They're the next Callum Newmans, you know. Then that's where they're going. They're incredible.
I jokingly typically refer to Mark True as one of the members of the Power Rangers, because he's got the tag team with Kieran Lacey, and they are the Teens with Attitude.
Yeah.
And that is literally the line used by Zordon when recruiting the Power Rangers. Yes, I'm a geek. I remember that. And it was literally the team, go find Teens with Attitude. And so Mark True is now a Power Ranger for that forever. Danny Black will be making his debut for Encore. How excited is that?
I mean, I'm so happy to have him on the show. Again, he's another one, you know, a bit like Laura, who I'm just so happy to have on the show, because it can be difficult to get people who are at that level on your shows these days, because everyone wants them. Everyone wants them, and whether it's Progress or whether it's Fight Nation or even whether it's NXT UK, people at that level are quite hard to get on your show. And so just the fact that I have him on the show is incredible. Danny's someone who I've known for a little while as well, and I've seen him kind of come up through the ranks, and he deserves everything he's getting right now. I'm sure you've both seen him work, and there's a reason he's the Fight Nation British champion at the moment. So that's because he's one of the best in the country. So and to have him going up against Forrest Hayes, who for me is incredibly underrated. Sometimes I think in this country people can overlook people who have strong gimmicks and characters for whatever reason. We said it about Ash Draven earlier. Sometimes I feel like it's happened to me at times. People might look at me and say, well, he's just a character, he's just a gimmick. And I think Forrest Hayes can fall foul of that sometimes because he's got such a good, strong character, but he can go in the ring, and he's going to prove that with Danny Black. So,
random question for you.
Hit me.
Who have you got refereeing?
We got Nick Cooper, who does Best Dressed Ref, which is, it's a little bit different. So I don't know if you've seen him do that before. He has refed at UBW, but he doesn't do the Best Dressed Ref thing, and he does it primarily at Sacrifice Pro Wrestling, but I just think it's great. He basically refs in like a tux, and it just adds a little something, and it's different to just a normal referee. So
massive. And there's a match that we know one person has been desperate for, because when we spoke to him, Mr. Corey McRae, he was really, really looking forward to fighting Warren Banks, and you've given him that opportunity. He must be super stoked for that. You must be super stoked for the match.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one thing I try to do at Ignite is try to think like what pairings are the fans gonna love, but also the guys in the matches, all women, whoever's in. I just want them. I want them to be as excited to go out there and have the match as the fans are to watch it. And I just felt like that would be one that both guys would love. Their styles will go so well together. Just two legitimate, solid, out and out wrestlers. Corey is another one who I don't know how much longer he's going to stay kind of like undiscovered as such, because once people start seeing matches with Adam Maxted and with Warren Banks, it will not be long before people are grabbing him and putting him on every show in the country.
Yeah, we interviewed him just after he'd been to Hungary. Went over for Passion Pro.
Yeah. He's just got it in the ring, I've wrestled him a few times, and some of the stuff he can do, you think he's got that MMA style, right? So you think that's all there is to him, but then he goes out there and he does moonsaults and backflips onto his feet, and he can do any kind of style you want him to do. So
and I picked up on him via Ignition Pro. It was the match against Just Joe Lando, your first show, the opening match, which was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that was. Do you know what's funny about that match? That match was meant to be Forrest Hayes against Mr. Charles Crowley, and then Crowley had other commitments that he couldn't do the show anymore. So we moved in. Corey McRae. Sorry, we moved in Corey McRae. So it was going to be Corey McRae against Forrest Hayes, and then Forrest Hayes got COVID, and then so it was like, oh my god, so we've lost Forrest Hayes as well. So we slotted in Lando. So it ended up, what started out as Corey McRae against as Forrest Hayes against Charles Crowley ended up being Joe Lando versus Corey McRae, and they stole the show. It was literally match of the night, and blew everyone away. Everyone in the crowd was just completely, they were on their feet by the end of it, and so I had to bring them both back. They were the standouts on that show for me, both of those two. And
it's funny
they weren't even on the show originally. Crazy.
It's funny you should say that. That's the second story we've heard of Joe Lando having to come in at a moment's notice to fill a gap and having the match of the night.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. And Joe's on this next show as well. His match will be coming up next to be the sixth match announced. So yeah, that'll be coming out in the next couple of days. But I mean, yeah, how could I not bring them both back after that? How could I not bring back? I don't think I went through a run in October where I think I did about 5 shows in 6 weeks with Joe. He was on like every show with me, and just every time he goes out there, people are just completely blown away. But like, just some of the stuff he can do is ridiculous. A bit like Robbie X. You look at it, it's like that defies gravity. I don't understand. It defies physics, man. Like, how do you do that? But,
yeah, it's absolutely nuts. I will be releasing this interview on the Friday coming of this week. Yeah. So if you're going to announce it before then, if you want to chat about it, tell us who it is. More than welcome to, because
yeah. So it'll be Joe Lando against Dexter. So I don't know if you've seen Dexter's work. So yeah, that'll be the 6th and final match coming out. Dexter was in the main event of the first show.
I was about to mention it, yeah.
Yeah, it was him and Warren Banks and Gene Money. And Dexter was on, barring one, I think, every single Pro Wrestling Clash show. So he's quite known, in the Bournemouth area now. And yeah, great heel, great underrated heel. And I just think that his kind of like, he's a very typical heel wrestler. He'll go out there, he'll get your heat. And then you've got Joe, who's going to fly around everywhere. I think it'll be a nice mix.
Definitely.
And of course, so that one is on the 6th of March in Boreham Wood. You will be releasing individual matches on YouTube, but the full show will eventually be available via Power4 TV. I'm stoked to watch it. Obviously, we'll give a review when it comes out. But just released on Power4 TV was United by RCWA Wrestling, which is available right now. And you just won their Elite One Championship from Moss, the Man of Steel, and in a fatal 4-way with just Joe Lando and Murdoch Miller. What was the experience like winning that belt, especially on that show?
It actually turned out to be David Reckham who filled in for Miller in the end. He got COVID the day of the show. That was his first match back in 2 years as well. So like devastating for him. But look out for Murdoch, because he's a great wrestler, and he's kind of just coming through. Just before lockdown, he was just starting to he's getting a few little breaks. Obviously, COVID slowed that down, and this was going to be a huge break for him, and then he got COVID. So, but yeah, so it ended up being me, MOS, who's like the longest reigning Elite One champion ever by a million miles. I think he's held it for about 600 and something days. And Joe Lando, and then David Reckham from Evanley United. I don't know if you've seen them, the football tag team.
Yeah,
they're hilarious. Yeah, I mean, look, I've been a big fan of RCWA for years, so just to be able to start getting on their shows was a big thing for me. It was a goal. It was a huge goal. They've brought through Will Ospreay and Kip Sabian and and Kelly Six and Ashley Dunn was there, Paul Robinson, Maverick Mayhew, Connor Mills. They have brought through. They've brought through some of the biggest names that this country has produced, and so for me, it was a huge goal to get on there. And then to move into sort of not just getting on there, but to move into the main event picture with Warren Banks at the show before this one was just incredible for me. And then to win the Elite One Championship. It doesn't get much better than that, to be honest. It was a great moment for me, I mean, anytime you get to work Joe Lando, it can't be bad. It's like I said, it goes out there and it just completely blows the minds of everyone. And MOS, who doesn't get about as much, he sticks to the kind of Essex area when he wrestles. Wrestles for local promotions that are local to him. But he's wrestled for RCWA since day one, and the fans there, that they've seen him come through, and they've watched him for 8 or 9 years or whatever it is now, and they just love him. He's probably, excluding obviously Will Ospreay because he came back for that show, and the reaction when he came out was ridiculous. Like, I thought my eardrums were going to explode when honest to God, I don't think I've ever heard a reaction like it live. It was mental when he came through. But excluding that, because that's just an anomaly.
Yeah.
You know, MOS is the most over face they have there, and the reaction when he came out was insane. So he's not a guy that many people know, but to those RCWA fans, he's their hero. You know. And yeah, so it was great. It was great to steal the title from him, to be honest, and get some heat, because they hated me because I just took the championship from their beloved hero. So,
excellent. And you're planning, of course, to become the new longest reigning Elite One champion. I'm sure.
That's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah. God, there's the list of people that have held that title. You know, like I said, Paul Robinson has held that title. Kip Sabian's held that title. Mary Mayhew. So Kelly Six. You know, now my name's in alongside them. So yeah, I want to try and, you know, cement my kind of legacy at RCWA. That's the goal now.
Yeah. And you just hinted at it, of course, because that show was extremely special. It was huge. The returning Will Ospreay facing his friend, partner, mentor, Paul Robinson. Were you peeking out the curtain with the match?
Was I peeking? Of course I was. I watched the whole thing from start to finish. How could I not? You know, look, ultimately, anyone who's a wrestler says they're not a fan is lying. You know, we all started off as fans, and I've been a massive fan of Will for years. In fact, I was at Lucha Britannia where he trained and came through, and Greg Burridge trains him, and Greg Burridge trained me as well. Obviously, he went on to slightly bigger things than myself, but so, you know, I've known Will for a long time, and I've seen him come through from, you know, trainee at Lucha Britannia to matches at Progress. Like, I remember watching Will and Paul at the garage for Progress in 2013. I think it was 2013 or the end of 2012, something like that. And I just remember being just completely blown away. I'd never seen wrestling like that before, some of the things they could do. And so to see where he's gone on to, you know, to be the biggest kind of British star in the world right now, to main event the Tokyo Dome. He literally main evented the Tokyo Dome like a week before he came down, and then wrestled in Raynham, you know, in a sports hall. Mind blowing. So yeah, I mean, I watched that match from behind the curtain, and yeah, it was incredible. And kind of, as I mentioned, the crowd reaction it shocked me even, to be honest. I mean, I knew it's Will coming back to his hometown. Of course, it's going to be big, but Jesus Christ, it really was deafening when he came through.
I bet that was a quick sellout.
Yeah, it sold out in like less than a week. So I'll be honest with you. I remember when they said they were doing the early January show, or sort of like mid-January show. And I was like, cool. January can be a tough month sometimes for shows. I don't know, Will's on it, and then it just was like, boom, tickets gone. I was like, yeah, man. Turns out everyone wants to see Will return to RCWA. How could they not, you know?
No, we were actually literally on guests on the Apron Bump podcast, and we were asked to watch Progress Chapter 16, which was his first match against Jimmy Havoc for the Progress Championship match, after he had done the damage to his back of the neck, so he wasn't doing any of the high flying moves at the time. Incredible match. It was great fun to actually look back on that one, wasn't it, Dan?
It was very good. That was also the one where Paul Robinson got his nose obliterated by Noam Dar. That was messy.
Yeah.
But yeah, to see, it's crazy just see the progression. You know, I followed Will all the way through from the early days in Progress to the main events with Jimmy Havoc, then to go into Best of Super Juniors to IWGP champion. It's just like,
yeah, absolutely nuts. Right, we've been concentrating a lot on the wrestling, but I think it's time to get to know CJ Carter. I think one of the first ones going to have to be, you mentioned you were a fan. What were you a fan of when you were first growing up?
I mean, yeah, early days, I think much like everyone. You know, I'm kind of showing my age here, but we're talking like very early 90s, like 90, 91. WWF fan, obviously. Hogan fan, you know, way back in the day. So like the first WrestleMania I remember watching was 92, so WrestleMania 8. And you know, it's kind of the dying days of Hogan, actually, to be honest. But, you know, I'd go back and buy all the tapes, and I had all the tapes from the 80s and the early 90s, and was a big Hogan fan. and then transitioned as I got a little bit older into being a huge Shawn Michaels fan. And, you know, Shawn Michaels was and still probably is, alongside Ric Flair, my favorite wrestler of all time. And then kind of went back and found some older NWA, WCW stuff and discovered Ric Flair. So yeah, that's kind of the progression as a fan. It was like WWF Hogan, WWF Shawn Michaels, oh my God, Ric Flair. And then kind of as I got older, it was like, oh, there's indie promotions and stuff. It was like ECW and Ring of Honor. And yeah, and I've just been a fan all my life.
Yeah, very similar path to both of us, but we're just a couple of years prior. We were WrestleMania 7 was our time. I remember going to Blockbusters. My local Blockbusters had all of the videos. So you had like WrestleMania 1 to 7, SummerSlam 89 to 90, whatever.
It makes me feel, I mean, it's terrible. It just makes me feel old, man. It makes me, because I did exactly the same. And I rented WrestleMania 7. You know, WrestleMania 8 was the first one I watched. And I remember watching, SummerSlam 92 because that was over here. And I remember being heartbroken, right? Because my dad went and he wouldn't take me. And I was like, even to this day, it cuts me deep, because he was going with his friends, and, you know, I was 5 years old and he didn't necessarily want to be taking a 5-year-old out with all of his mates. He's in his 20s and they were going out for a night out. You know, I'm older now, I kind of get it. Yeah. But at the time I was just like, I just want to be there. And so it was like WrestleMania, SummerSlam. And then I remember going to the local video store and renting out WrestleMania 7, which was Sergeant Slaughter and Hogan. And I remember renting that out for about 5 weeks running. Like, I would take it back and then I'd rent it out again. And then I'd take it back and then I'd rent it out again. And I just remember that Sergeant Slaughter and Hogan match so vividly from growing up.
The Warrior Macho Man one as well.
Yeah. I was just a big Hogan fan.
Sorry, go down.
I was going to say, you feel old when you're interviewing the likes of Just Joe Lando and everybody, and you realise that you've got children older than they are.
Yeah. Well, how do you think I feel? I wrestle with them. I wrestle with people who are like born in the 2000s, and it just blows my mind. It blows my mind. You know, I've got a 10-year-old daughter myself. So, and I'm, you know, Nino's like 19, and it's just like, Jesus Christ.
The one match that always stuck out for me at WrestleMania 7 was actually the Rockers versus Barbarian and Haku.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved that match when I was growing up. I was such a big Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty fan. I was more a Jannetty fan, though.
Really? Wow, that surprises me. No reason why you wouldn't be, but everyone obviously gravitated towards Shawn Michaels. It's quite rare.
It changed to Shawn Michaels after a while, but when the Rockers first broke up, I remember going, "Oh God, I hate Shawn Michaels."
I loved that. Was what really turned me to like Shawn Michaels, was that super kick through and then the barbershop window stuff. And then that was, for whatever reason, from then on, I've always gravitated towards heels. I've always loved heels. Like, that moment, I just thought was so goddamn cool, where he super kicked him and smashed him through the window, and like, I was just like, it seemed really graphic as a kid, but it's actually not that graphic. But I remember thinking back, oh my God, his face is messed up, he's never gonna be able to wrestle again, he just have to have plastic surgery to have a new face put on or something, you know. I was like 5 years old. It was just, I don't know.
Yeah, that was wrestling to me. So when you mentioned you were a pure heel, you used to go by the moniker Pure Evil. Where did that kind of come from then?
So I guess the characters CJ Carter and that kind of dark evil side was so I'd been wrestling for a while up until that point. I'd done a few gimmicks that didn't really stick, didn't really work. I'd done just white meat babyface, come out like, yay, you know, I'm here, I'm a babyface, cheer me. You know, I'd done a posh boy gimmick, which called Christopher Lavelle. And that was when I met Gene Money, and he was doing Johnny Lavelle. And so we tagged as the Lavelle brothers, and we did this posh boy gimmick. And it, you know, it was all right. It was fun. And it was how can it not be fun tagging with Gene Money, right? But it just wasn't me. You can probably tell from speaking to me now. I'm not posh. I'm as working class as it comes. And so it never felt that natural. And then towards the end of that tag run, I started, for various reasons, I started to get a little bit resentful and bitter towards wrestling, and I started to get a little bit in my own head with stuff, and I had some stuff going on in my personal life, and so I started to struggle with my mental health a little bit there, and so I took a break from wrestling. I decided that it was probably best for me to just take a step back, during that period, there's look, I don't want to play the violins, and I don't want people to feel sorry for me, right? But like I had a fairly dark 2 years, and I was in a bad place, and I was really resentful towards wrestling and people in wrestling, and it got to the point where I couldn't even watch wrestling anymore because it just made me feel really negative about the whole thing. And then when I started to feel like I was ready to come back, and I started to get my mental health in a better place, and I wanted a new character, I started to think, right, I'm going to tap in. I want to tap into that kind of dark period in my life, right? And I want to try and turn it into a character, and that's where CJ Carter came from. It's kind of that really angry, bitter, resentful person that I was in those 2 years, and then just turn it up to like 11, and then bring it out in a character, and then so that's what CJ Carter was. And the idea is that he's someone who has no empathy. He has no remorse. He just hates everyone. He thinks the world's against him, and that's where pure evil came from. And then I started to toy around with some face paint, and I did the full face paint for a while, and it started to lean, and then I started to slowly kind of lean in towards doing, like, I'm a big horror fan, right? I've always have been. I love horror films, and so I started to lean into that kind of horror-esque side of it. Which got me quite a cool little following from a certain group of fans who find that really cool, and as do I. But then what I've tried to do over the last couple of years is actually just try and bring it back a little bit. I steered all the way over this way with it into like full kind of comic book horror character, and I just want to kind of lean it a bit more the other way, so it's a bit more me, a bit more realistic. And that's why I now do like the half face paint or the eye face paint, because the idea is I want it to be, one half is me, real me, angry, resentful, bitter person, and then there's this other side to me that's like even darker, even more sinister, that will come out in the matches when it needs to, or at the right point, or when it's been set off. So there is that even darker side to me. So that's what I'm trying to go with now. Is I just want it to be grounded and based in reality, really. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. A Two-Face type gimmick.
Exactly that. Like, is a bit, yeah. That's what I'm kind of going for.
I'm sure the people would like to know who did it first. The half face paint, was it you or Darby Allin?
Look, it probably was, in all honesty, Darby Allin. But now, I had no idea he was doing it when I started doing the half face paint. So I was a little bit devastated to discover that someone else was doing it, to be honest. Because I was doing, so what was happening was I was doing the full face paint, and it's a bit of a faff to do before the show, but B, I was also getting some feedback, and I think they were right. Some feedback that my character was too gimmicky. It wasn't real enough. It was like, bring some more of you back into it. And I'm not. I was thinking they're right. I need to lean back a bit more into what CJ Carter, the initial idea was. It wasn't the initial idea of CJ Carter wasn't to be this horror comic book character. It was meant to be a real person, just with a darker, sinister side. So I was like, right, if I split it down the middle and do the half and half, like you said, it's like the Two-Face thing. You've got the real person and then the real dark, sinister side. That was the point in it. I wasn't trying to copy Darby Allin. And then when AEW started is when I kind of really discovered Darby Allin. I think I might have seen him, maybe he did a Progress show not long before that. Actually, he came over not long before AEW and did a Progress show, and I remember seeing him there and thinking, damn it, there's someone else doing it. But they're not on a big stage. They're in America. They come over, how often is he going to come over and wrestle over here? And he's not on national or global television right now, so it's not a big deal. Boom, AEW happens, he's on global television, and there's someone else using half face paint. So yeah.
Hey, he doesn't have an awesome beard.
No, there you go. You see, I've got the beard. He doesn't have the beard. I've got a different look. I've got a completely different, I've got long hair, got the long beard, got a different ring attire. It's just the face paint. But then I started thinking, right, how can I differentiate myself a little bit from him? So I started trying to move into doing it more just around the eye. So the evil dark side of me is coming from that part of me, just from the eye, and the face paint just on the eye. And then Malachi Black starts doing that, and I couldn't believe it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never gonna, like, everything I do, someone else seems to do as well. But
So
there you go.
I've got a question about the face paint.
Go on.
As somebody who doesn't regularly wear face paint, bearing in mind that I don't wrestle professionally and I'm not on the stage, how long does it take you to do the full face, the half face paint?
I mean, just with the eye that I'm doing at the moment, I can probably do it in 20 minutes, which is nice and simple and easy. When I was doing the full face paint, yeah, it could take me half hour plus, 45 minutes plus, and it was a bit of a pain, to be honest, because you don't always get a lot of time pre-show to plan a match or go over a match or talk to the promoter about what they need on the show. And there's so much stuff that goes into pre-show and pre-match that when you're taking 45 minutes to do your face paint, you're losing kind of some really valuable time. So that was also kind of a little bit of a factor in me going to the half face paint, which then half the time down. And now I just mainly stick to just doing the paint around the eye, which makes it even easier. What does happen though is because I literally do black all around the eye, it stays on there for days. So look, you wash, most of it comes off pretty easily, but what happens is you end up looking like you're wearing like really thick mascara and eyeliner for about 3 or 4 days afterwards, which when I used to go into the office more was interesting.
I was about to say, do you ever find yourself traveling with the paints on the occasion?
It's funny you say that. A lot, by the way, a lot happen. I travel home with it on a lot. It just depends how quickly post show. Sometimes you've got loads of time to pack down and get going, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's get the ring down, get out, you leave. I haven't got time to wash it off. So quite often I'll drive home with it. But one time I was driving home. It was from a UBW show actually. And quite often you'll forget you've got it on because you've wrestled in it, you've packed down, you've put your stuff in the car, you're driving off, you just forget that you've got face paint on still. And I'm going home, I go through the McDonald's drive-through to get some food on the way home, pull up to pay, and the look on the person's face was like, my God, what the hell's going on here? There's a person with long hair, long beard, and kind of half demonic face paint on buying McDonald's, and I was like, why is he looking at me like that? Like, what the hell? Why? Like, I could not work out why he was looking at me so strange. And then it wasn't until I then looked into the rearview mirror and saw that I still had my face paint on, and I was like, oh, that's why he was looking at me like that. So yeah, I do end up traveling around with my face paint on quite a lot.
Okay, so one of the questions we typically ask all our guests is the Mount Rushmore of British wrestling, because everyone has Mount Rushmore. They always pick American people. UK seems to always be overlooked. So we try to push our Mount Rushton. If you could pick 4 British wrestlers of your choice, they can be personal to yourself or what you believe they've done for wrestling in the UK, who would you put on your Mount Rushton?
So this is of all time, right? This isn't just current, or is it just current?
No, all time. Anytime you want there. It can be, we've had people mention wrestlers from the 50s. We've had guys, the young guys, mention guys like Pete Dunne, Chris Brooks, and Mark Andrews for the things that they've done. So it is completely down to yourself.
Okay, Rushton. Right, I'm going to go Jody Fleisch, Doug Williams, because for me, growing up, in the early 2000s, massive FWA fan. Those two, revolutionized wrestling in this country. I'd say Doug Williams, Jody Fleisch, and Johnny Storm, but if I put all 3 in, that's 3 of the 4 gone, right? So I'm gonna have to be selective. Sorry to just go with 2. So I'm gonna go Jody Fleisch, Doug Williams, 2 of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and really, I think in the 2000s put British wrestling back on the map. I'm going to go, you've got to go Will Ospreay. You have to go Will Ospreay because currently he is, for me, the best British wrestler in the world. And, so you got Ospreay, you got Fleisch, you got Doug Williams. I'm tempted to go British Bulldog. Is that too cliche? Just because of, you ask any kind of casual wrestling fan or even non-wrestling fan, name a wrestler from this country, they're going to go British Bulldog. You know, it's hard to, you know, as someone who grew up in the 90s, it's hard to really explain to someone how massive it was to have someone wrestling on that grand stage, you know, covered in Union Jacks, was very open about the Britishness, to come out with the British Bulldog, come out with the flag. And I feel like through the years, he kept British wrestling relevant for a long time, the British Bulldog, by being such a big name. And then into the early 2000s, Doug Williams and Jody Fleisch did the same, but, you know, both went abroad, wrestled it. You know, Doug went to Impact TNA at the time. Jody went out and wrestled for Ring of Honor. And now you've got Will Ospreay, who's wrestled literally everywhere and has won every belt there is to win in New Japan. So
I think they're 4 excellent picks.
Very much so. We just interviewed the author of the new upcoming book, Dynamite and Davey, which is just about to be released by
Scott Bell.
Thank you, Steve Bell.
Steve Bell, sorry.
Steve Bell. And yeah, he is without doubt should be on everyone's Mount Rushmore. So good pick.
Dynamite. So the thing is, right, Dynamite Kid is actually one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and is someone I try to kind of take a lot of my style from, and kind of mimic, try to take some of the his kind of intensity and his kind of, you know, the way he wrestled in the ring. I thought he was just incredible and revolutionary. The only reason I didn't put him in over Davey is just that Davey was just, I mean, in terms of name value, and, you know, you pretty much anyone can name the British Bulldog, right? You know, be that wrestling fan, not wrestling fan, casual wrestling fan. He's like the British Hulk Hogan almost in a way. And I don't think you can never really take that away from him, to be honest. But yeah,
such a shame he never got the top title.
Yeah,
it is. Another question we always ask is about up and coming wrestlers. Now, we've just mentioned Tom Billington. What about his nephew, the Billington Bulldogs?
Yeah,
what do you think of them?
I don't know much about them, to be honest. It'd be really hard for me I don't want to sit here and be like, yeah, they're great, they're amazing. I'm sure they are. I've never seen them wrestle. I've never met them. I've seen them advertised on various different promotions around the country. I've seen their look and their physiques change over the last few years, getting in better shape, looking more and more like stars. But I've never met them, and I've never seen their work. So I don't think it'd be fair for me to kind of judge them, to be honest.
I'll say I would love to see the Billington Bulldogs at Ignite Wrestle Pro one day. They are, I think, they're so much like their uncle in so many ways. I think it's Tom, the eldest one, is a bit of a bruiser. He hits hard.
Very hard.
And then Mark is a bit more of the high flyer, a bit more of the things like yes, you say they look like him. But as you say, you've got your promotion. Who are you keeping your eyes on? Who are you keeping your tabs on?
Well, I think obviously we've already spoken about Nino. For me, yeah, definitely one of the next big stars in the country. Mark True again. People, I tell you what, they're Jackson Hart is someone who I really like, who wrestles mainly at UBW at the moment, and I feel like he's going to come through, and people are going to really start to notice him. Joe Lando is, I mean, he's going to blow up this year. It's hard to say Joe Lando is really like an up and comer, because he's already starting to get noticed and getting booked everywhere. But I think by the end of this year, Joe's will be up there alongside like Callum Newman as well. So Nino, Callum, Nino's brother as well, who you mentioned earlier, is brilliant. The Rebellion. They're going to be up there with the top tag teams by the end of the year, I'm very sure. I mean, and then you got the obvious ones as well, like Tom Felwell, who I'm wrestling, and you've got Kid Lycos too, obviously. But these are guys who I think everyone knows about, I think so. The reason I try and mention someone like Jackson Hart, for example, is that I don't think many people know about him, but he had a tag team match at UBW. Did you see that when you was at the show? It was the tag match against TK Cooper and Chuck Mambo. So yeah. Yeah, and he is someone who is very new and is just coming through. But yeah, give it a few years and he'll be in that next crop of people. And you know, Tommy Kyle as well, who as you said, who was at Wrestle Carnival at the weekend. People are starting to sit up and notice him as well. So these are all people that I'm going to want to bring in and use it at Ignite, and hopefully you'll see it Ignite. And we'll be, you know, working people like Tommy's with Laura, and you know, Nino's going to be with the Rebellion, and hopefully you'll see these people and as they grow and as they become the biggest stars in the country.
That's excellent. We've had you now for almost over an hour, so you've got, as you mentioned it, Art of Combat. You're facing Tom Farewell. We're going to run this down tonight. That's the 5th of March. I forgot, I've not put the location down. Where's that one at?
That is in Salford. I'm not sure. I'll have to pull up the name of the venue, but yeah, it's a debut show. It's got absolutely stacked card. Chris Ridgway and Dan Maloney. Yeah. It is at Poptastic, which is a nightclub, Newport Road in Stafford. Sorry, there we go. Art of Combat, 5th of March, the day before my show. Yeah, absolutely stacked card.
You just mentioned Tom Farewell, as you say, one of these guys. He's about to blow up. He's been doing great stuff in the Northwest. I'm really looking forward to seeing that match. I want to see how you two match up, because as I say, you've certainly got the experience edge, but he's a very talented young man. And you've also got United Wrestling UK, Heart Beating, and that's on the 12th of February. Again, you mentioned him earlier, Just Joe Lando. Huge matchups coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I've wrestled. I haven't. Just funny. I've wrestled Lando maybe 6 or 7 times recently, but never in a singles match. So this will be the first time we actually get to go out there, just me and him, and tear it up. And yeah, he's up there. He's up there alongside Callum Newman for me, and you know, he's going to blow up this year. So I'm glad that I at least get to get in and get a singles match with him before he completely blows up and he's gone and he's signed or he's on Progress every single weekend and we can't wrestle him anymore.
You're going to need your head on a swivel for that match. He's going to be everywhere.
Everywhere. He will be everywhere.
All right, let's plug your merch.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a t-shirt out at the moment. See it on my CJ Carter Facebook page or Instagram or Twitter. Get in contact. And yeah, it's £15. So yeah, and available at all shows that I'll be on as well. So if you're coming to watch at DNA or United or Ignite or RCWA, who have another show coming up in February 26th. Yeah, just, you know, go to the merch desk, find my t-shirt, support.
And I'm not just saying it because you're on. It is a very good t-shirt, and it is being worn by Jack and Stephen Southern. They both got t-shirt. They are both massive fans of you. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support. And thanks for the kind words.
We'll get a photo so we can plug it on Twitter. As you say, DNA Pro Wrestling, it's in our blood free in Ipswich, 19th of February. It will be available on Powered 4 TV. And of course, Ignite Wrestle Pro with Encore in Bournemouth on the 6th of March. And again, it will be available to watch via Powered 4 TV. Is there anything else you'd like to mention?
No, I think you've pretty much covered everything. You've hit all the bases there. You've done this before, I think. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have a great day. And remember, folks, don't feed the trolls.